3, 2, 1. Welcome to The Sounding. We aim to provide sexual trauma survivors with a path to healing in order to tell their stories. We always start with a disclaimer to let you know that while we're experts in our own wild experiences, we are not doctors, lawyers, therapists. We're just here having conversation in hopes that it helps you along your way. So thank you for being here today.
Yes, please like, subscribe, comment, share, all those fun things that help us stay active. And let us know that you're listening, which we know that you are because we keep getting such lovely feedback.
Yes.
So thank you. Today we are going to talk about the differences between grooming and narcissism. Those are two really hot words or descriptors for people in the abuse community, trauma community. And although I think that all groomers are probably narcissists, not all narcissists are groomers.
I agree.
If that makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah. And I think that I've had many narcissistic relationships in my life, some that impacted me in the sense that it was in the raising aspect of my life, and that's a hard thing to get over when you've had narcissistic abuse in your life. And then just in relationship situations. And there are different types of narcissists. There's covert narcissists that tend to be a little more quiet on the social front and not grandiose, which is I think how we think of narcissists as being grandiose, and a lot of them are.
And that's where all narcissists do groom, but it's not towards
not for
sex,
sexual,
right?
Right.
So when we're talking about groomers, we're talking about people who are trying to take sexually from people.
Right.
But narcissists groom, right?
They do, absolutely. Yeah, because they
So
have
maybe
to
we should,
groom.
what's grooming?
Yeah,
real quick,
and I
when
think
it comes to not even
right.
just sex, right? Grooming is just this idea of training people to give you what you want.
Position, right? You're preparing for them for that. And we talked, I think, in about one of our very first videos that was probably hard to hear about grooming is preparing somebody for a position. And in our situations, it was for sexual assault, rape. But that's not how all grooming takes place. Sometimes you're groomed for a job.
Or groomed to... If you're raised in a home of a narcissist parent, you're groomed to do whatever it is that they want you to do, right?
Well, and I think really for narcissists, it comes down to that narcissists, the world revolves around them.
Thank you.
And they do believe that they are the most important person in the room at all times. And in some ways, we all are, right? But
we are, yes.
Right, but in this case,
we share it.
They're willing to impact other people by proving this.
Right.
And so for the grooming is that you're almost groomed to believe that that person is as important as they think they are.
Yeah, bingo.
You know?
Love it.
And so then you live this life of trying to live up to their expectations of them. Like you have to treat them a certain way and bow down to them, almost like queen or king status. And, there's a lot of things that are done because at the root of it, in my opinion, and I'm sure that it's probably truth, is that narcissists are, in fact, very insecure human beings.
Do you think people are born narcissist?
No.
I've heard that you can turn into narcissist.
And I've heard that it happens at about 18.
Okay.
And I think you have a choice. I do. And I have to say this because...
You think it's conscious, too?
I do in some ways. I think
agree.
you have a choice, like in anything. You have a choice whether you decide to let your addictions get the best of you or not. It doesn't mean it's... Look, we're all addicted to something. We are.
Yeah.
End of story. Some addictions are harder than others. Meth is maybe harder than a TV addiction, but they both impact us negatively.
And I don't know, man.
I was going to say, maybe not. They're really into the
TV.
TV. So, everything is an addiction, and I think narcissists choose to let their ego rule and not do the healing that they should, because I think it does come from a deep sense of insecurity that comes out as a grandiose, in some cases, personality.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're going to find insecurity there.
Yeah.
And so then they find another insecure person that has no boundaries, that perhaps has been groomed by somebody else, that allows them to take this, abuse and then build them up. Like in my situations, all the narcissists that I had in my life, I loved tremendously, and I fawned over them, and I wanted them to think they were amazing, right? I'm cooking and I'm cleaning, or I'm obeying,
paying
or
all
I'm
the bills,
following the rules, or whatever the case might be, right? And you're thinking this whole time, like, what can I do to be better?
Right.
Because you're never going to satisfy a narcissist. They're always moving the bar, right? So we don't try to edit our videos very often, but Shay had to cough, and then apparently one of the dogs farted. So here we are, back at talking about narcissism. So I think what I was saying was something like, with narcissists, when you start to set boundaries with them, or this is what I'm going to say, that's when they start to lose control, and they may ramp it up, and I know in certain situations for me, as I started to heal, certain people no longer could control me, and so the narrative started to change, and it got harder to be in those relationships, more painful, because there was cruelty then, where before there hadn't been, because I was complacent.
Right.
And the cruelty stepped up as my complacency ended, if that makes sense. And so, once you start identifying...
It's that clinging, they're grasping.
Yeah, and
by
trying to
any means
figure
necessary.
out how to shake you.
And usually narcissists will, and groomers, they'll go for the low blows to try and make you feel less than, which is what they're used to making you feel. But when you're healing yourself, you start to feel whole again.
You start to feel good.
And you have a backbone.
You do.
Check out our boundaries video.
Yes, and you love yourself. And so then when you start to love yourself, there's no room for narcissism. But narcissism can happen in any type of situation too. Just like grooming, where it could be a friendship, or it could be a relationship, or a parent, or sibling, or whatever. They're out there. Lord knows, the narcs are out there narking.
Right.
And narcissists can be dangerous to more than just the psyche, but in a lot of situations, that's where their danger lies, is the psyche. Groomers, in the situation that we're talking about, are dangerous physically, mentally, soulfully, because they're after... It's not for their own insecurities just to make themselves feel better. It's for nefarious reasons, that they have some kind of sexual deviance that they want to act out, and somebody's going to suffer in that situation. Yeah. And so I think it is important that we have an understanding of both situations. We can't stop narcissism or enact laws against narcissists, that'd be
too bad.
It is too bad, right? But grooming.
And gaslighting.
Gaslighting. What about breadcrumbing and future faking?
Right.
If you haven't looked these up, look these up.
Well, and first we're trying to just get grooming to be acknowledged in the court of law, because it's a real...
It is.
System in place happening. Mm-hmm.
And I think
that's damaging. It's damaging.
I brought up teachers, and I have the utmost respect for most teachers. I think they're amazing, human beings that go in and these bad situations that we have in these school systems. But let's be honest, that anytime you have access to children, that's where groomers come into play. Yeah. So teachers, churches, coaches, we've seen all of those. Babysitters, older siblings. I had a friend one time who back then, because I didn't have good boundaries and I didn't think about things, I thought she was a little bit nuts, but she had a younger daughter, and anytime that her son had somebody stay the night, she would have her daughter sleep in her bedroom. And I thought at the time, like, wow, that's extreme. And now I'm like, it's not extreme, because you're letting these teenagers into your house,
right.
and they have needs, and you don't know what they've been exposed to.
Right.
And so we have to protect ourselves and our communities and our young ones from these people out there, because the other thing is if you've been groomed or had narcissists in your life, you speak their language. They smell you, they sniff you, they know, and so they might end up in your household. They might end up coming after your
Unless
children.
you have good boundaries.
Unless you have good boundaries, right. They might come after your own kids because they can see that you don't have good boundaries, therefore you're not going to see things.
Yeah.
So the not faster, I don't want to say that, that's awful, because healing happens at your own pace. But the more active you become in your healing, the more that you challenge yourself to meditate and quiet your mind and journal and really take a look at the relationships in your life, then the more likely you're going to be able to protect the loved ones in your life that are younger than you, whether it be your own children or your nieces or your nephews, or if you're in a church situation or school situation. Like, we have to start looking out for one another.
Yeah.
And we have to,
we have to call it out.
Yeah.
When we see grooming, whether it's for sexual or just emotional damage.
Yes. Like, let's talk about Britney Spears for a minute, because I know she's been out there, and I remember back then when she was being vilified and crucified, and this young woman was literally losing her mind, and it was so clear that she was being, I'm not going to say groomed, but definitely had narcissistic behavior going on.
She is a narcissist?
No. That she was being controlled by. Right. That she was being, victimized, no boundaries, like this poor young woman. And we, as a society, went for her. Like,
and
it was
making fun of her.
Horrifying, right? Like, let's not find joy in other people's mental breakdowns, please, people.
From
we must
other
do
people
better, right?
Grooming and being narcissists.
Right, because a groomer will, or not a groomer, a narcissist, but a groomer too, will make you feel crazy.
That's the
you find yourself saying things like, I'm not crazy, and then they sit back and they're like, I win.
But you are.
But you are, because they don't feel that same kind of emotion. So instincts, boundaries, both situations, it's so important to get in touch with those, because when you're listening to your instincts, when you have boundaries, access denied, baby.
Yeah, I read it. I'm thinking about the readings that I've done on narcissism, not that I'm super studied on it, but one thing that stood out to me, that's why I asked you, do you believe that narcissists are born that way? This article was saying that narcissists, there's some people who become narcissists based off of their lived experiences as children, right? And that's this idea of them turning at age 18.
Sure.
And it is almost like they switch a flip off to their emotions to be able to do what they do so well.
They do. But they're also, a lot of them, are very good actors and actresses, and this is why we talk about Hollywood, right? Like
Holly Weird.
Like, if people will say, "Oh no, he's such a nice guy," and I'm not gonna, like, such a nice guy, Danny Masterson. No, he's an actor, so he's pretending to be a nice guy. Like, when you're an actor, you don't know the real person, because they're pretending. So
not all actors, but
no, obviously. I mean, you can't put anything in it all, but in general, you could have a land filled with narcissists because they're all acting and pretending to be loving, pretending to be kind, pretending to be nurturing. Like Ted Bundy, like, everybody says how amazing he was, and one of the most prolific serial killers. So, let's do better as a society about not vilifying people that are reacting.
Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I watch a reality TV show. It's my guilty pleasure.
Yeah, me too.
But she used that same analogy, and she's struggling on TV, so I'm not, like, telling her business. It's on reality, but I believe this to be true. Her own mother, a narcissist.
Oh, girl.
And her friend is like, don't talk to your mother like that. She's so nice. And she's like, Ted Bundy was nice.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know my mom behind closed doors.
No, I can relate to that particular situation so much. Because there's a fakeness to the real world.
Oh, I know.
And
me too.
I'm
not outing anyone on this show,
but then on inside closed doors, there's a person that nobody knows except for the person that's unfortunate enough, right? Like, so, and then the goal always is to make the person that is the victim to look crazy, because then, or to look like they're not telling the truth. So there's a language that narcissists speak and groomers speak, and you may not notice it, but it's subtleties. If there's a person that you know that's normally very calm and cool and collected, and then they get around one certain person and their behavior responds differently, like you might have a situation where they're being controlled. Yeah. Like we have to start watching for this stuff. I'm a very different person now that I do not have any of those relationships in my life. And
you're like, hopefully, but we weed them out. I mean, that's the thing is, it's not like you just get rid of them all.
Oh,
like,
no.
This is humanity. We're talking about human behavior, and we need to be aware that there's narcissists out here, there's groomers out here, there's people out here who do not have our best interests at heart. Doesn't mean walk the world afraid either. It just means get that strong backbone and keep that heart open.
And realize that when you have been the victim and you've survived these situations, that there is a smell, like a pheromone, like a knowing, like a
it's almost like an energetic vibration
that they know. And so you might find yourself like, why do I always run into these? Because that's the vibration that you're emitting. So once you have the boundaries, once you have the right language, once you hear things, once you're present and mindful, it's harder and harder for them to get in. And then you start to be like, it's almost comical.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I can't believe there's a time where I would have fallen for that stuff, that love bombing, that, all of that. And love bombing can happen in friendships and
at work.
At work. It doesn't just have to be romantic love bombing.
Yeah.
So that's
a narcissist characteristic or
love bombing.
Trait, tendency.
Right. Because then you fawn over that.
Strategies
to make you feel like the most important person in the world, so then you'll return the favor.
Well, you know what? I think we've spent enough time talking about narcissists. Let's talk about how to heal from them.
I love it, girlfriend. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
We're not giving you no more time.
Yeah. You're done. Access denied.
Yeah.
Yes. So our healing practice for today is to talk about... I don't even remember what
Shrooms.
Shrooms. That's right. I don't know how I couldn't remember that. So
we've been filming all day, so thank you.
Yeah, we're a little tired, but so shrooms. We want to talk a little bit about plant medicine just to get a basic start, because that has been part of the healing journey for both of us, and shrooms specifically, so mushrooms, psychedelics,
and even
psilocybin,
but we're specifically talking about
mushrooms in general are amazing.
They are
maybe sent from aliens.
They are little aliens. Watch all the documentaries.
I know all of them. Mushrooms. Google it.
But psychedelic ones for today.
Yeah, and I went to a class once because about microdosing. I attended a class, and I loved that the facilitator said that when you microdose, which means that you don't really feel the full effects, and I've done both, and I'll let Shay talk about the macro dosing. But microdosing is taking just a very small bit of it, and the way that he described it, which made total sense, was that we have all these pathways in our brains where we keep thinking the same thought over and over and over again, and it's just wore down, and that's the looping and the hypervigilance, and it's hard to get out of that on our own. And when you take shrooms, the microdose, what it does is it enables new pathways to open up. And what happens is you're going down different pathways that your brain hasn't thought. And so it's new, exciting thoughts. And what happens to that old pathway is it grows back. And so not only does
it's covered over.
Not even gets covered over, but it almost like it comes back to life and it doesn't have that same worn out thought process. That part of your brain can articulate differently now because you've allowed it to kind of have new receptors, lighter, brighter. Everything gets brighter in the pathways, right? And so I did microdosing for probably a good 3 months straight, because if I'm going to recommend it to my clients, I want to try it myself. So,
I did it for a whole year during the pandemic.
Yeah. And I loved it.
Not daily, but setting yourself on a schedule. She did 3 months on a schedule. I did a whole
I did
year.
3 months almost daily, where I was just, and I really was a time where I was able to forgive myself for a lot of things. And I think that's part of healing that maybe we don't talk about, is forgiveness of self too, because as a trauma survivor, you respond to things in ways that maybe are embarrassing. There were moments where I felt crazy, looked crazy, because I was engaged in something with a narcissist or a groomer. And so, you know,
I'm just thinking of my abusive ex-boyfriend.
Right.
All my friends and family was like, "What in the hell are you okay over there?" And you know, you isolate yourself. They're good at doing that. Too. And I'm like, I'm too embarrassed to even ask for help. Because look at how far deep in I am.
Yes. And, you know, they isolate you. Like, I got to a point where I lost a lot of, you know, people in my life because of my healing, and I still wasn't fully healed, but I was at this weird transition of not having a lot of people that knew me, and somebody swooped right in and took the vulnerability, and there was nobody there to say, oh, maybe this is not normal, because nobody really knew me. So the isolation from it too. So if you're starting to feel isolated, that's another clear indicator. So, but back to the healing. So the shrooming, the microdosing, that for me, again, allowed my brain to feel differently. It allowed my healing to take place in a different, more forgiving manner. So I'm a huge fan of microdosing.
Please reach out to us. We can talk offline about this. And please do your research. There's lots of research out there on how to microdose and how to do it safely.
They're facilitators
and it's microdosing. So Dina said almost daily. Most people are going to say don't do it daily, especially because you're going to need your brain to clean itself out and reset.
Well, and it depends where you're at in your healing journey too, right? Because not everybody has, like, I know when I went for ayahuasca, some people were like, oh, this is my first time using anything. And I'm like, whoa, like, you're going guns blazing. Where for me, when I started microdosing, I'd already done years of talk therapy, energetic. So this for me was a final, like, okay, so absolutely. Everybody needs to do things differently, work with the practitioners that feel best for you.
Yeah. For me, I did the microdosing after I did the full-on journey, if you will. Yeah. And just in context of working with healing from narcissists and groomers that were very prevalent in my life, I would just say that going deeper in, taking more of the mushrooms and having a deeper journey, it helps strengthen, again, this idea of befriending myself. I have gotten to know myself through this plant medicine on levels that have strengthened my boundaries, right? Strengthened my awareness to the bullshit that people try to present to me, so that I can be like, I'm done here. And like Dina say, leave those people behind, right? Like, I don't have a lot of people in my life anymore that are narcissistic tendencies, if you will, because I don't play that anymore. And I did, though. I was in a very vulnerable state. I was in a super abusive relationship with a narcissist who physically put his hands on me. I'm showing up to work with black eyes, but I'm, covering it up because,
Well, we protect. We fawn and we protect.
But then, so you insert medicines like shrooms where you can microdose or take these longer journeys where you're getting to know yourself on a different way and safely, hopefully, right? I just highly encourage you. I think I said in another video, I'm going to say it again. I highly encourage you to explore all the different plant medicines that are out there if you're interested in it.
Yeah.
There's so many different cool ways to heal, and especially we want to do that so that we're getting stronger, so that we can block out all those narcissists and groomers.
Right, yes. If we all get strong together, then they can't win, right?
Yeah.
So if we're all saying, no, we're not dealing with this. And then, as a result, they get to heal too. Because listen, we got to share space. We want everybody to heal. I mean, I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of debates as to whether narcissists truly can or not. But there are situations where certainly people headed down that pathway can heal.
Like working with children, you know, in a way, say you are a youth worker and you meet a parent who you can sniff that out on, right? We want to be able to sniff that out so that you can then support your youth better and as a teacher or whatever kind of
and give them the tools, because you don't have to stay in situations. And this idea that, I'm just going to say this, that blood is thicker than water and we should be impacted by and take whatever comes through our familial situation. Like, that, again, is an indoctrination in this country. Like, that's insane. Abuse is abuse. If it comes from somebody that shares your same DNA, shame on them. There's no shame in walking away from situations that hurt you and harm you. And so I think there's power in knowing that you don't have to stay in hostile situations, that there is family that can be made out there, that friendships can turn into family, that once you become powerful, that, listen, I've spent holidays alone since my life has changed and enjoyed the hell out of them because I was myself and in my own space and I enjoyed it. Like, we just live in this world where we have all these ideas of blood is thicker than water. We should all have these certain holidays. The holidays are coming up. That's a hard time for certain people, but
the narcissists love the holidays.
They love them, yeah.
I'm just thinking of my own
work
experience.
that applause and bring it all together. And they're like puppet masketeers, watching everybody like, oh, girl. Oh. So anyway, that's enough about that. So, but now that it's the holiday time, maybe it's time to share some of those stories.
And take a microdose.
Right, to get through.
Microdose and share the stories.
Microdose. Because when survivors speak,
the silence ends.
Like, subscribe, share. Thank you.
Comment.
We appreciate every single one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.